Hey, and we're here at lesson number 5, the last lesson of module 5, Know What Matters. And in this lesson, we're going to do something really important, and that is to troubleshoot values, troubleshoot clarifying our values. So these are the most common concerns that tend to come up when we're trying to clarify our values. Remember the demons in the boat? Sometimes at this point in the program and a longer journey, it feels like they are getting a little restless. They know what you're up to. You're plotting a new course, planning to steer that boat toward land. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few demons that might try to stop you and what you can do about them. The first demon is the "I don't know if these are my real values" demon. Now this is a very sneaky demon. It wants to undermine your confidence by having you doubt your answers. The way to deal with it is to answer these following questions. If a miracle could happen so that you automatically had the full approval of everyone who matters to you, and therefore you weren't trying to please or impress anyone, then what sort of things would you do with your life, and what sort of person would you try to be? That's question number 1. Number 2, if you weren't guided by other people's judgments and opinions, what would you do differently in your life? Okay, that's question number 2. So those 2 questions will help you clarify what you really want so that you are living by your own values and not someone else's. Then these next 3 questions will act to help you clarify what's important in your life. Question number 1, if you could somehow listen in on your own funeral and the people you most care about were there, what sort of things would you love to hear them say about you? What would you like them to think about the role you played in their lives? Number 2, if you knew you only had 1 year left to live, how would you like to be as a person, and what would you like to do during that time? And question number 3, if you were trapped in a collapsed building and knew you only had a few minutes to live, who would you call on your cell phone, and what would you say to them? What does your answer reveal about what's important to you? Those questions are going to help you take straight to what's important to you. The next demon is the "I don't know what I want" demon. I don't know what I want. If you're not sure what you want, ask yourself this. If I could have any value I wanted, which one would I choose? Whatever values you would choose, those are already your values. Those are already your values. Why? Because the fact that you would choose them shows you already value them. Okay, so if you feel like you don't know what you want, just ask yourself, if I could have any values I wanted, which ones would I choose? Those are your values. The "I don't want to think about it" demon. So if you've experienced a lot of failure, frustration, or disappointment in your life, then you may be afraid to acknowledge what you really want for fear it will only lead to more of the same, more disappointment or frustration. If so, remind yourself that the past is the past. It's over, can't be changed, but no matter what has happened in the past, you can make changes right now that will allow you to create a new future. So do the exercises, and if uncomfortable feelings arise, breathe into them, make room for them, and keep focused on the questions. The "I'm just setting myself up for disappointment" demon. Now this sneaky critter is usually accompanied by several of its buddies, like "I'll only fail if I try," or "I don't deserve anything better in life," or "I can't change." Remember, these are nothing more than pop-up thoughts. So think your mind, let them come and go, and refocus on answering the questions. The "I can't be bothered right now, I'll do it later" demon. So you know this creature far too well to believe what it says. You know that later never gets here. So think your mind, and answer the questions. The "but my values conflict with each other" demon. So this demon is kind of making a valid point. At times your values will pull you in different directions, but don't let that stop you from acting on them. It just means you'll need to find a compromise. Sometimes you'll need to focus more on one value than another. The reality is, there will be times that you'll have to focus more on some domains of life than others. This calls for soul searching, for asking yourself, what's most important at this moment in my life, given all my conflicting concerns? Then choose to act on that value, rather than wasting your time uselessly worrying about what you might be giving up or missing out on. Just act. You really can't go wrong. There are many other demons that are going to try to deter you, but you already know that they're only a bunch of words, so let them be and focus your attention where it's most useful, on plotting the course, steering the ship onward, and thoroughly appreciating the voyage. So, ask yourself, if you haven't completed the exercises in any of the previous modules, why was that? Was there a demon getting in your way? Go back and do them now. If you find yourself repeatedly resisting, avoiding, or putting up blocks to values, like saying to yourself, I don't know, nothing matters, I don't have any values, I don't see the point, I don't deserve to have a life, this is really corny, any of those types of phrases, that usually indicates experiential avoidance. Remember we talked about that earlier? And it means that you need to do more work with acceptance and diffusion. Okay, so if you find yourself repeatedly resisting, avoiding, or putting up blocks to values, go back and review modules 1 and 2 again. Get better at acceptance and diffusion. Now, sometimes we are so focused on gaining approval from others or doing what we've been told to do by our parents, religion, or culture that we disconnect from our own core values. To reconnect them, here's a useful question. Suppose I were to wave a magic wand so that you automatically had the approval of everybody whose opinion matters to you, so that whatever you did, they totally approved of it, whether you became a saint or a serial killer. So once this wand has been waved, you never have to impress anyone or please anyone ever again. Whatever you do, they'd be delighted. Then, what would you do with your life? And how would you act in your relationships? Okay? So pretend you've waved a magic wand. All these people whose opinions matter to you, assume they approve no matter what you do. Then, what would you do with your life? And how would you act in your relationships? Now, sometimes a client's goal is to change others. They'll say, I want my wife or husband or mother or boss or colleague to be more blank, more cheerful, more cooperative, more friendly, loving, respectful, whatever that is, right? Or less abusive, less lazy, and so on. If that's the case with you, let me ask you this. Let's assume, again, I have a magic wand, and I can instantly change this person to fit your ideal. If you did have that ideal relationship, how would you act differently? What personal qualities or strengths would you like to develop or bring into that relationship? What sort of friend or relative or colleague would you like to be? How would you ideally treat the other person? Consider how you can influence the behavior of others by acting on your own values. You can't control others, right? You can merely influence them. And the more we take control of our own actions, the more effectively we'll be able to influence others. Now, perhaps you're at a stage where you feel like you're already doing all the so-called right things, all the things that matter, going to work, looking after the kids, keeping fit, and so on. But you're still deeply unfulfilled. Often a lack of fulfillment is because although you may be doing what matters, you're not psychologically present. So instead you're caught up in your head, lost in thoughts about all the things on your to-do list, or immersed in an ongoing commentary about what's not good enough, or consumed by worrying, ruminating, or daydreaming. If that's the case, then I recommend doing more work on being present, and I highly recommend reviewing Module 3 to do just that. Okay, so between now and the next module, are you willing to do 2 things? Number 1, notice when you're acting on your values. And number 2, notice what it's like to do so, what difference it makes. So notice when you're acting on your values and notice what it's like to do so. That's the main piece of home play for this week. So as always, I recommend reviewing the values interventions we've covered, and there is a summary sheet below this video, so you can download that to go over that summary. And review the key points that we covered in this module, Know What Matters. You'll need all this information for the next module, Do What It Takes. Technically, values are desired qualities of ongoing action. Poetically, they're our heart's deepest desires for how we want to spend our brief time on this planet. Metaphorically, they're like a compass. They give us direction and keep us on track. Getting in touch with your values can be difficult. However, with patience and persistence, you can get in touch with your heart. And when you do that, it's truly magical. So all the best to you this week. I'll talk to you soon.